Welcome back to the news at 10. Anambra State is ranked number 1 in the entire eastern region of Nigeria as being affected by gully erosion. Reports show that out of 177 communities in the state, 75 are affected by the menace. The next report focuses on natural and human causes of gully erosion in the state.
There are 166 gully erosion sites in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria, and this can be categorized into natural and man-made causes. According to a report by the Anambra State government, in 1994, over 70% of the land in the state were ravaged or even threatened by gully erosion, and over 20% of that land has been lost. From Nanka to Agulu, Newi, Obosi, just to mention a few, the story is the same. Communities swallowed up by landslide. Natural waterways such as streams and river channels are consequently blocked by falling buildings, thereby compounding the problem of flooding. To make matters worse, sensitive drainage areas, wetlands and flood channels are encroached upon by hungry land developers. Excavations on red earth, soil and sands are carried out anywhere and anyhow, often without permission from the relevant authorities. Although efforts are being made to tackle gully erosion in this area, all this seems not sufficient in the face of increasing danger posed by this menace. What this calls for is more commitment from the state and federal government.
Joining me now on the news at 10 is Dr. Mayowa Fashono, a senior lecturer, Department of Geography, University of Lagos, as we take a look at this menace. So good evening to you, Dr. Fashono. Thank you so much for joining us on the news at 10. Now, in your opinion, do you think enough has been done to reduce erosion in eastern Nigeria? Because that's the focus for this evening.
I do not believe enough has been done. In fact, if you look at those pictures, those are very pathetic sites. One thing we should realize that if the people, the local people could do anything, they would have done it long ago. And if there is something the government is doing, it means whatever has been done has not been effective. Yeah. Because if we go back to history, the problem is as old as 150 years old when it started. Now, the key issue is that we've not really realized what it is. It is a disaster. You see, something is a disaster when it is beyond the capacity of the people affected to cope. Now that is the kind of situation we have. And when you have a disaster situation, what are you supposed to do? You declare an emergency and then you mobilize resources.
Funds have actually been appropriated. We have the ecological fund that was actually appropriated for situations such as this. So is it that the funds are not enough, or that the beneficiaries that is, have not have misappropriated these funds?
Well, it's difficult to say because we can't see the account books. But the key issue about this is that tackling this kind of erosion requires an holistic and integrated planning. And I think there's hope now because I remember the World Bank has stepped in with almost $500 million fund. And they are also partnering with the states and the local governments. There's what they call the new MAP, the Nigerian Erosion and Watershed Management Program, and it's using a kind of approach that has never been used before, which is an integrated approach rather than the piecemeal approach that we've seen all around.
So talking about that integrated approach now, should it be in collaboration between the states, that's the federal and the state government, or the private sector should now key into this?
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion for now, which I know the federal government, the state, and the local government, including the local people, are accommodated in the arrangement. But I can't be sure how much the private sector has been able to key into that. But I think it's a good suggestion if the private sector also key into that, so that we have a kind of integrated and complete approach, because so many factors are responsible for those kind of erosion. Some of them are underlying factors that are even far away from what you're seeing, including issues about climate, issues about soil, issues about geology, issues about the hydrology, issues about land use practices, because those areas are they are very high densely settled area. So even if we want to move them, there's nowhere to move them to. And so, like I said, if there is something the people who have done on their own, they will have done it long ago. So that's the situation we are.
They have actually contributed, because we have natural and man-made, causes of this erosion that we're talking about.
Yes.
Excavating of soil from particular areas where maybe even the federal government has even given specific instructions you must not go to.
Exactly. I think I agree with you, because those has to do with the land use practices. Of course, the people are also contributing. And then that's why the integrated and holistic approach is important. You have to let the people own the project, let them own the issue, let them see that, oh, this thing actually belongs to us, and then it's for our own good. We have to bring them in, and we have to, like I said, we have to really bring everybody on board. It's not something that the federal government or the state government alone can do. There has to be more commitment, especially from the states and at the local level.
Is there any quick win? Is there any quick fix, rather, to this particular situation?
I don't think so. If there has been any quick win, which you have seen that years ago. So the situation where we are now just simply means every hand must be on the deck.
Well, Dr. Mayowa Fashional, thank you so much for joining us on the news.
Thank you.
Agonizing traffic jam in various parts of Benin metropolis may soon be a thing of the past. This is coming from the Edo State Commissioner for Transport, Isimeme Iriogbe. During a tour of some major traffic spots in the state, Mr. Iriogbe pointed out that the new-look Edo State Traffic Management Agency will soon return with recruits properly trained. The Police Public Relations Officer of the Edo State Command, Stephen Onwoche, welcomed this development, adding that the police should be part of the program.
On sites in some parts of the Benin metropolis, traffic gridlock with unauthorized persons sometimes coming to the rescue.
Not because I want to pay something for it, but because I want the road to be usable for people that's passing it.
It's the same situation at the well-known Ring Road axis, where commercial transport operators are the usual suspects. But there is a new sheriff in town who says it will no longer be business as usual. New Commissioner for Transport, Honorable Isimeme Iriogbe, talks tough on his immediate plans to deal with the problem.
You can see what is happening now, people parking illegally and all that. We will ensure that we will contravene them, and there will be serious continuous enforcement up till like 11 in the night. As a matter of fact, government is already working through us bringing S-Man. Within a very short while, we'll do recruitment and bringing decent human beings into it, good indigenous of the state and resident of the state. And I'm very sure that they'll perform very well. We are going to do a lot of work here. People, when you don't do enforcement, people will contravene. But we'll ensure there is continuous enforcement. Continuous enforcement, and I appeal to everybody to cooperate with us.
The Edo Police Command says there is nothing wrong in getting support from other agencies as long as the training is right.
They must be trained by the police. They must be given the rules and regulations. They must be made to understand that they are on the road to serve the people, not to intimidate. I remember my commissioner of police. He keeps telling my traffic people, you are there to serve these people. Where it is expedient, that is when you can make arrest. If anything else, where there is a mistake, correct and let the man go. You are there to serve. But those guys, I don't know whether they are told all this. So they must be trained. That's our take on this.
Some of the challenges facing motorists in the metropolis are expected to be addressed if the relevant authorities live up to their responsibilities.
The University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital, UNTH, in Enugu State, southeast Nigeria, has successfully carried out several open-heart surgeries. According to the Chief Medical Director of the hospital, Dr. Christopher Ama, the medical mission, which started conducting surgeries there in 2013, performs the procedures at very reduced cost as part of contribution to reduce capital flight to medical tourism.
The University of Nigeria Teaching Hospital in Enugu State. The site, according to history, of the first successful open-heart surgery in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa, did not witness an open-heart surgery for 10 years until the arrival of the medical mission in 2013. Since then, 108 procedures have been done on both adults and children at lower than normal costs, made possible by contributions from foreign donors and the National Health Insurance Scheme.
A lot of Nigerians are dying from cardiac diseases that need surgery, open heart surgery, and those who can afford it are going overseas, UK, US, India, to have their surgeries done with a huge capital flight, leaving this country, apart from the inconveniences and the risk. So having the program restarted here and running and on a sustainable basis was a priority for this administration.
Happy beneficiaries recuperating after their operations talk about their conditions before treatment.
I feel very tired. I can't climb the stair up to the first floor.
I can't do anything. Even to breathe is hard for me. But now, I'm feeling better.
One of the foreign surgeons expresses satisfaction with the competence of his local counterparts.
Myself and my professionists, we both came, and rest whole local team got involved. And I can say the local team is really good. All they need is some support, that's all.
For now, patients pay 300,000 naira for their procedure. The rest of the cost being undertaken by foreign and local partners. But Dr. Ahmad looks forward to free surgeries where state and federal governments, as well as private individuals, will bear the cost.
Nigeria is blessed with abundant human resources, but this can be harnessed when quality and affordable education is made available. Those were the words of the Vice-Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Vincent Tenebe, at the inauguration of Augustine University, a private Catholic-owned university in Ilara, a local government area of Lagos State, southwest Nigeria. He believes the actualization of quality and sustainable education can be achieved if individuals and groups complement government efforts.
The inauguration of Augustine University begins with a Thanksgiving Mass. The chief celebrant, Archbishop of Lagos, His Grace, Most Reverend Dr. Alfred Adewale Martins, led other priests, including the Pope's representative in Nigeria, Catholic faithfuls, and guests in the celebration. The Mass gives way to the inauguration ceremony with eminent persons, including Lagos State Governor Mr. Akinwumi Ambode, General Theophilus Danjuma, and His Eminence Anthony Cardinal Okoje in attendance. The Vice-Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria, Professor Vincent Tenebe, delivers a message from the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. He urged the Church to stay in the path of truth.
It is hoped that the Catholic Church will maintain its standard that are already known all over the world in the establishment and running of this university. We also know that the resources available to provide this education for our teeming population, government cannot bear this alone.
All that Augustine University intends to do is what Catholic universities have always done the world over, and done so very well over many centuries. That is, provide education of the highest standard possible of the whole person, spirit, mind, and body.
Governor Akinwumi Ambode of Lagos State used the occasion to reiterate his administration's determination to invest massively in education.
My administration believes strongly in investing in education. From my experience, I have come to the conclusion that there is no greater form of preparation to manage change than through education.
The Augustine University sits on a massive 135 hectares of land in Ilara-Ekpe. The foundation of the institution was laid on October the 27th, 2009, and the operational license was granted by the NUC on May the 27th, 2015. The university started with 13 undergraduate and postgraduate courses to be run by 2 faculties.
Welcome to Business News. Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo has advised commissioners of economic planning at the state level to collaborate with the National Planning Commission to address developmental challenges across the country. The Vice President said this at the ongoing meeting of the National Council on Development Planning in Anambra State. He adds that the Buhari administration is committed to achieving positive change for inclusive growth and sustainable development through his office. According to the Vice President, the aspirations of the change agenda can be realized through collaboration between the state governments and the National Economic Council. Well, the Central Bank of Nigeria seems determined to implement to the letter the policy on the 41 items restricted from accessing forex from its official window, despite pressures from different quarters to reverse the policy. The Apex Bank has ordered the Bureau de Change operators to honor the letter of credit established prior to June 23rd for the 41 items restricted. In a circular published on its website, the regulator asked that no bank or Bureau de Change operator is to provide foreign exchange for any of the 41 items in respect of Forms M established after June 23, 2015. The bank maintains that confirmed or unconfirmed letters of credit established before the release of the circular can now be paid from the interbank foreign exchange market. Banks are also required to render weekly returns on the negotiated letters of credit to the CBN's Director, Trade and Exchange Department. Authorized dealers have been asked to comply with these directives with immediate effect. Yields on Nigerian bonds are seen dropping next week as Naira liquidity rises after yields climbed marginally this week. Dealers expect a liquidity boost next week owing to the disbursal of monthly budget allocations to some states and local governments. Increased liquidity drove bond yields down to about 12.90% last week from a peak of 17%. A 10-year bond yield, which traded at 12.90% last week, rose to 13.60% on Friday. Meanwhile, interbank lending rates jumped to 7% from 1% at the end of last week as payments for foreign exchange and treasury bills drained liquidity from the banking system. Traders say liquidity showed a surplus of about 256 billion naira on Friday, down from over 1 trillion naira last week. The secured open buyback, the rate at which lenders can borrow from the interbank using treasury bills as collateral, rose to 7% from 0.5% last week, well below the 13% central bank benchmark interest rate. According to them, NNPC's plan to recall the proceeds of its dollar sales to some banks to its account with the central bank next week could raise the cost of borrowing. However, some of the traders believe that if budget allocation to some states and local governments come in next week, it will counter the impact of intending cash withdrawal by the NNPC and keep the rate at present levels. Next on the news at 10, Israel and Jordan agree on moves aimed at reducing tensions surrounding a prominent holy site in Jerusalem. Join us again.